I'm Tracy Osborne, and you're listening to the Daring Woman podcast. Imagine the story of a generation being altered by women who were empowered to live their truth and in turn can empower others to live theirs. It's time to rewrite the narrative. You know, life is all about choices, and how you choose to live your life is ultimately up to you. And a lot of us choose to live our lives in one way for ourselves. And some of us choose to live our lives in another way for other people. And, you know, those choices and those decisions that we make ultimately affect everything, you know, within us. And, you know, my guest today, Cindy Holbrook, is no different. She found out, you know, after having her traumatic past, which I'll have her share with you, that, you know, her first coach that she had in life said, you know, my life is my choice. And that really resonated with her. So Cindy, welcome to the show. I really definitely want to dive into this because I think that, you know, we tend to forget that we have a choice in life. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So let's kind of go back a little bit and tell us a little bit about your past and the trauma that you have experienced, and then we can kind of, you know, follow your journey to where you are today.
Okay, yeah. Well, I would say definitely, excuse me, I don't know why I have a frog in my throat. I definitely was not raised in a Leave It to Beaver home. My father was very abusive, sexually, physically, and mentally. It happened from the time I can remember until I got older. So as so many children do, I married my father at the age of 18, minus the sexual abuse. So I continued with this abusive cycle, really believing that my life was not my choice and really believing that my only purpose on this earth was to cater to other people and do what other people wanted me to do, and to be who other people wanted me to be.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely resonate with that. When you don't have your own sense of identity, then it's very easy for others to manipulate you and mold you into what they want you to be.
Exactly. And it's such a part of life you don't even know any difference. I mean, some people look at my life and think it's so traumatic, you know, with the sexual abuse and even the physical abuse. My dad broke my ribs when I was 14 years old. Whenever I was about 11 or 12 years old, we were traveling across the country, and my brother and I started arguing in the back seat in the middle of the Arizona desert in the summer. And my father dropped us off in the middle of the desert and left us there for 2 hours. So there was a lot of abuse and a lot of just trauma. And I know from my experience that everybody has trauma in their life. And as human beings, we like to rank it. But really, your trauma is no different than my trauma, because regardless what the trauma is, we have the same feelings about it. And we start to believe that our life is not our choice, or we start to think that, as I did, you know, as children, we learn all these defense mechanisms. So we just think this is the way the world is. And if we're not shown or taught that there's another way, we just don't know any better.
Now, I'm sure that we have some listeners thinking, okay, so my life is my choice. Well, I didn't choose to be abused as a child. And, you know, so, yeah, I don't think most of us would, you know, so how would you counteract, you know, that?
Yeah. Well, you know, I would say I was 35 years old when that happened, and my coach told me, Cindy, your life is your choice. I thought, lady, you are absolutely crazy. You are bizarre. There's no way that my life is my choice. When she said that, I was very suicidal. My 14-year-old daughter was getting involved in gangs. My husband it was the worst, because he had decided he didn't love me anymore, but was going to stay with me for the kids. And he made my life hell every single day. And to top it off, within the past 2 years prior to that, there was over 10 deaths in my immediate family, including my mother, whom I completely adored, my father and my grandmother. My brother-in-law got murdered. There's just all this death around me.
Oh my goodness.
And I just was really not in a good place. So therefore, whenever she said my life was my choice, I really thought she was 100% crazy. But something resonated inside of me. Something sort of woke me up. And I started thinking, and with her talking too, she would always ask me, what if questions, and what would I do if this happened, and how would I want life to be? And it really started making me think about my own life. And I finally realized, number one, I could not change my past. I could not change the sexual abuse. I could not change the fact that my ex-husband didn't love me anymore. I couldn't change the fact that everybody had died. But what I could do was change the way that I thought about it. And so I started redefining a whole lot of stuff in my life. The only thing in that whole scenario that I actually had any control over was my daughter, because I did fight very hard to get her out of gangs. And she says, to this day, she says that I saved her life because of the sacrifices that I made as a mother. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, that was probably a good thing, because it helped take my focus off of me and all my problems, and focusing on what I could do to save my daughter's life. But with everything, I started redefining it. I started redefining it, the abuse. I started understanding truly that what happened was not my fault. I truly understood that my father was the sick person, and he's the one that, for whatever reason, whatever happened in his life, he's the one that made the choices to not be a father, to be a monster disguised as a father. Right. So it took me a while to really, figure that. But I started, just started redefining what had happened and looking at stuff. And I started asking myself, what is it that I want? What do I want to do? And it was the first time in my life that I'd ever asked that. And also it was like, in the work that I was in, I worked for social services, and there was this meeting I had to go to. And it was really my first time of learning to self-love, let's say, because they had us all write compliments or write something good about everybody else in the room. And then we had to read the ones about us, and we just had to say thank you. And the person would read it to us, and we'd just have to say thank you and accept the compliment. And I was not used to accepting compliments. And
that would be hard.
It was a huge exercise for me, but it also started teaching me that they were giving me a gift. These people were giving me a gift with their compliments, showing me that I was an okay person. And who was I to take away the gift they wanted to give to me? And with all that, I just started, growing and learning about myself.
I love that you went there, because when we've gone through trauma, especially, the abusive ones, the emotional, sexual, physical, we tend to get browbeat so much that we don't feel worthy of other people's compliments. And it's very uncomfortable when somebody compliments you. And I don't know about you, but for me, my first reflex is to be like, oh, whatever. I had somebody tell me the other day that I was beautiful, and I said, we need to go get your eyes checked. That kind of thing. And to kind of be forced, I guess, to get out of that comfort zone of I'm not worthy and sit in the I'll accept your compliment, thank you. That had to be, kind of a powerful transition moment, I would think.
It's a definitely, and over the years, I'm not saying that I've transformed overnight, but over the years, I really have learned how anybody can give me a compliment and I will graciously accept it. I don't ever, because basically, if I handed you $100 bill, Tracy, and you said, this $100 bill is warped, I don't want this $100 bill, and gave it back to me. And you're doing the same thing whenever you reject a compliment from somebody.
Right.
You know, and compliments are way more valuable than $100 ever could be. But we reject it. And again, it's that feeling of unworth, or it's our own self-love. And when you give a gift to somebody, if you gave that $100 to me, you're doing it out of the kindness of your heart, and it makes you feel good to give it to me. So if I all of a sudden give it back to you, you're going to think, man, Cindy's a BI, you know.
Right.
And you're not going to think very highly of me. And also you're going to say, man, I was just trying to be nice and she rejected me. And I started thinking, it's the same thing with compliments. If I don't accept your compliment, I'm actually hurting you by not allowing you to give the gift of the compliment to me.
Well, and not only that, but I think subliminally, and this just kind of came to me actually, subliminally, we're telling them that your words have no value, or they have no meaning, or, you know, whatever, you know, we're giving back a negative vibe without meaning to. It's, you know, we're not trying to hurt that person. But I think when we reject their gift, as you say,
yes.
You know, we're saying that I'm not worthy of receiving it, and you're not good enough to give it to me to make me, you know, to make me feel worthy, or, you know, something along those lines, I think. And so, yeah, you're being selfish. Not in a good way. Not in a good way. Yeah. There's good selfish and there's bad selfish, and rejecting somebody's compliment or nice gesture or whatever is bad selfish.
Exactly. You know, and it's such a part of self-love. The more you start accepting other people's compliments, and just really, even in your heart, just sort of accept it gratefully, and just say, wow, you know, I'm so grateful that Mary thinks I look pretty today. I'm so grateful that, you know, that Jane likes what I said, you know, whatever the compliment is, you really accept it into your heart. That helps with the self-love, and it really is healing. It's healing for yourself from whatever past trauma, because we can't accept compliments because of the self-worth, which is because of whatever past trauma you've had.
Right.
And so whenever you start to learn to be grateful for it, even I used to write in my grateful journal all of my compliments that I would receive during the day. And interestingly, you know, a lot of compliments are similar, but it really helped me to start seeing myself through other people's eyes in a loving, positive way, versus me being an object for whomever wanted me to be an object.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to see ourselves as other people see us, because we have this distorted mirror of reality. And so when we look in our distorted mirror, it's almost like looking in the mirrors at the fun house, you know. We see just all kinds of, you know, wonky stuff and all the flaws and everything that's wrong with us. Whereas people are looking outside, looking in, and they're able to see all the beauty and everything that we can't see yet.
Nobody is perfect. You know, everybody struggles with this self, you know, of self-love, of identity, and of really accepting who we are. I always say we all want to be loved and accepted for who we are, but until we can accept and love ourselves for who we are, we really can't allow other people to love and accept us. But we do point out our flaws. My sister, she's 8 years older than me. I love her dearly. However, you know, I was told a lot. I was told I couldn't cook as good as her, or I didn't clean as good as her, or I didn't do all kinds of stuff as good as her. And but she's always been my protector. She's always been my favorite sibling. You know, I just love my sister a whole lot. But when she's very shy and I'm extroverted, so when she started a cake decorating class, she said, hey, Cindy, come to me with this cake decorating class. And also when she started doing an egg decoupage class, she's like, come with me and learn how to decorate eggs. So I would go to these places with her and I would look at her finished egg or her finished cake. And I would think, man, Carol, man, you're perfect. Your cake is perfect. You make perfect roses. You make perfect borders. Everything about it's perfect. And your decoupage egg is perfect. And mine is full of all these flaws.
Yep.
And so she started to get me out of this. She started pointing every single flaw of her creations out to me. And that, again, was a big lesson to me, is like, she's just as flawed as I am. I just want to look at her as being perfect. Because, which is, and not honoring that my stuff is just as good as hers, if not, it's just different.
Yeah. I'm the same way with my sister. I have her on this pedestal of perfection. And, I'm just now, as I start to really, go through my own personal development journey, see that, she's not as perfect as I always thought she was, but, and that's okay. That's what makes her unique, and that's what makes her you, or makes her, I should say.
Right.
Back. Go ahead.
Loving. It's all about love. We love them so much. We think that they're perfect, but also over the years, especially the last, say, 5 to 10 years, the more that I've spoken with my sister, she's opened up more about her feelings towards me. And see, she's always thought that I was the perfect one. So
isn't it funny how that works?
Yeah.
But I was going to say, back to the idea of the gratitude and the compliments and such, I had a thought around that, and that is, think about how you feel if you're in the checkout line at the grocery store and everyone's whining and moaning and groaning, and the checkout person just looks frazzled, obviously having a really bad day. And you get up there and completely change it, because you're like, hey, how's it going? I love that color on you. That sweater that you're wearing just brings out your eyes, or your hair is amazing. Whatever. I love those earrings. Whatever it is, just some kind of and I do this intentionally. When I see women that, or people that look like they're having an off moment or an off day, I will find something, it doesn't matter how small it is, to compliment them on. And you can immediately sense the shift in their energy.
Mm-hmm.
And
isn't that interesting, though, that you have a hard time accepting compliments yourself whenever you love to give them?
Yes. Yeah. But what I find is, when I feel their energy shift, I feel good. It makes me feel good because I made them feel good. And so, that ties into when
I want to add to that, and I don't know if you've ever heard this part, but whenever you do a good deed, and giving a compliment is a good deed. Mm-hmm. So when you're standing in that checkout line and you see the checker all frazzled, and you go up there and you give her a compliment and you see her energy change, it makes her happier, and it makes you feel good, makes you happier. But also studies have proven that everybody that witnessed the transformation, also it lifts their spirits and makes them happier.
Interesting. I've never thought of it that way, but I can definitely see why that would be. Mm-hmm. But my point of this was, think about how you feel after you have done that for somebody else, and for someone to come and give you a compliment and you refuse it by downplaying it or whatever. Think about how they're going to walk away feeling. They're not going to have that warm fuzzy inside that they were able to brighten your mood up a little bit, or, make your day a little brighter, because you refuse their gift. So, that just kind of hit me there, and I wanted to make sure I got that out.
Right. I love that it touched you so much. And to me, it's one of the best ways to start being healed is just learning to accept compliments. And and also learning to give them.
Right. So, in the last few minutes that we have, what final tips or tidbits do you have for our listeners to help them on their journeys, getting away from their trauma and healing and becoming themselves and choosing to live their life for them?
And it is, we have over 50,000 thoughts every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And first of all, it's being aware of what you're thinking. One time when I was working with a psychologist, he had me set a timer, and every hour I had to stop and write down whatever I was thinking. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't do it. He wanted me to do it for 7 days, and I did it for 3 days, and I just about hated myself because I was so shocked at all the negative thoughts I was thinking. And they were just stupid thoughts like, oh, Mary looks ugly today. Oh, Mary thinks she's just so smart. Or mm-hmm. How come Mary said that? They were just stupid stuff. And I'm like, no wonder I'm this basket case when I'm having all these bad thoughts. So it's awareness, and it's really starting to listen to yourself. What are you telling yourself? Why don't you want to accept that compliment? What bad thing are you telling yourself about yourself that, hey, I don't look pretty today, or my hair didn't turn out the way that I wanted it to, or I'm too fat, or I'm too skinny, or I'm too old, or I'm too young, or what mm-hmm. have you. And every time you have a thought that's really sort of not in the direction that you want to go, give yourself 3 compliments in the direction you want to go. And that really does a lot to lift your spirit. And at first, it's really hard to do that. But the more you practice in telling yourself good things about you, especially after you've thought something negative, mm-hmm. It'll start being more habit. And that's really great on yourself, on your journey to self-love, and on your journey to living your passion and being who you want to be. It took me years, but here I am, 20 years later with a business that I love, a husband that adores me, and I really have a good life. And I'm 100% in choice of my life. And I never, whenever I was first told that my life was my choice, I thought they were nuts. But now I totally see how it can be. And I know if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. And now you have something for our listeners, right?
Well, if they're a business owner, this is really going to be great for them. If you're not in business, it may not be so great for you. But I am Cindy J, the Visibility Whiz, and what I do is I show people how to get visible online. And basically, if you're not visible online, there's those fears around it. It's the feelings of not being worthy enough to be seen. So what I have is a checklist. It's a 7-step checklist to radically up-level your visibility online. And so this teaches people a little bit about overcoming the fears, but a lot about how to be known as a trusted and an in-demand expert, and how to identify the type of people you want to work with, because you only want to work with people that's going to uplift you and not people that's going to make you feel worse about yourself, and how to make real connections and engage with your audience to create the know, like, and trust factor so that you can build your business the way that you want it. And to grab that, you just need to go to visibilitychecklist.com.
Awesome. And for those of you, if you're listening on the Daring Woman website, we'll put that link down below as well. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us, Cindy. I really appreciate having you on the show. And this was a great topic to discuss, not something that we talk about very often over here. So,
well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
But and ladies, for those of you listening, as always, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you join us over in our Facebook group. You know the drill. It's our safe haven. What happens in the group stays in the group. It is there for you for support, no matter what's going on in your life, whether it's personal or it's business. Send us your wins. Tell us your troubles. We're there to celebrate and to inspire and uplift one another. So it's facebook.com/groups/daring woman. And we will talk to you next week on the show.